Thing has never stopped bothering me, and it has been the Africa question, the stark realities of the essence of Africa, the truth about the African continent, and the truth about the African person. I was born in Africa in 1977. I'm now 41 years old. And through the time as I lived in Africa, I was privileged to behold the stark nakedness and the vagaries and the pains that are so excruciating that come out of poverty. And I think God took me through what I had to go through in preparation for my purpose in life. So as I grew up and having so many weaknesses myself, I knew that I'm in Africa to help change the situation. And through time, I knew God had in store for me to act and, touch upon a few things and change them for the better. That's what I have always known as I grew up. And as even my brothers and my sisters died because of sickle cell disease, I somehow knew I wasn't going to die that early because I knew I had some business that was not yet finished. And as I became of age, I could see myself doing little things for people, especially those who are down there. I would never stand and see you being molested and say nothing. I would easily get into your issues and try to correct a few things. And I didn't like people gossiping about others. In my own home, the gossiping would be done in my absence because when I was there, I would challenge that. Not directly there and then, but I would walk to the person who had been gossiped about and I would tell them what had happened and ask for clarification. That is who I am. And as I continue discovering poverty through my work with communities, I realize that poverty has layers. It's like an onion. When you think this is poor, it will come off and you'll realize the other one is poor. And if you think this is the poorest, it will peel off and you realize there is another that is even poorer. And just yesterday we pulled into Kakamega County in a place called Makina. And we pulled into this home and we meet this house that doesn't even have a window or a door. And we meet this man, he's 79 years old. That could have been the age of my father had he been alive. So this 79-year-old man has a son, and their house has no door, and they are so afflicted by jiggers. Everything just seems not to work. The outside of the house is littered with the rags, and those rags double up as their clothing. And in the house, there is no trace of food. We meet frying pans at the door. And our visitor, who had arrived the previous day from Mexico, just breaks down and she cries. And as she cries, one thing that looking at things with a foreign eye does is that it illuminates the situation to even the people who live in that situation. Sometimes you cannot know that you have an issue until an outsider comes in and looks at it from a foreign eye. And when I saw this lady break down, I thought about the situation of Africa. And I asked myself, how come Africa is like this? Through history, we are told Africa was once the greatest. It was the civilized. It carried the Magna Carta of true civilization, and the entire world came to Africa. Even up to about 2,000 years ago, people like Jesus Christ ran to Africa as refugees. And so it was a good place. We are told Africa is the cradle of humankind. And we have fossils that attest to that. But how come Africa finds herself in this precarious condition? How come people in Africa don't have self-esteem? How come they're so poor and they're seemingly okay in their poverty? How come they let jiggers bite them until they are completely defeated and they can't pull the jiggers out? And this is the question that always bothers me, that people should live in such a subhuman state. Does it mean they are children of a lesser God? Does it mean they are more sinful than the rest of humanity? Does it mean their mind is weaker than the rest of the people? What happened in Africa? And I am discovering more and more as I work in Africa with the African. One reality about Africa truly is that the problems in Africa are caused by the African himself. But not just that. You get into history and you look at slavery, and then you look at colonialism, and the effects of those two giants are still on people. People are still suffering the effects of slavery. When you have been made a slave and sold as property, it affects you. It affects your children and your generations. You cannot be okay knowing that you were treated as a lesser human being. Then when later on you were colonized and you are told you cannot even have an education. You can only learn some simple arithmetic and nothing more, because you're not qualified to get an education. When you're told certain foods are not meant for you. We take tea here, and we don't take coffee, although we produce coffee, because an African was told by the colonialists, you should not take coffee. It is not meant for you. You're not good enough to take coffee. So we don't take coffee. I personally don't take coffee because I found it that way, and I was bred through the system of taking tea. And when people have really demeaned you to that level, to that status, it gets into you. And you sometimes tend to believe it. I once served a brand where a relative was, went around saying I have AIDS, I am HIV positive. And it worked on my mind. And I thought she was right. I had to go to the hospital and test. And the tests came out negative. But still in my mind, I knew I'm having that virus in me. It's because somebody emphatically put it onto me and repeated the lie until it was embedded into my subconscious. And so I'm still studying the African person, and I'm still studying Africa, not through books necessarily, although I also read books, but I'm studying the essence of Africa by going deeper into those despised places to unearth some stark realities about the African continent. And so walk with me as we go through this thing. I don't know what I can do about the situation, and that is where I get the frustration. Meeting somebody who doesn't have a door and you're not able to provide that instantly, it's a bother to me. So I walk there and I'm not able to provide the door. And I tell myself, perhaps tonight a hyena will enter that house and mess them up. Maybe in the night because the robber cannot get in because there's nothing to be stolen. But perhaps in the night, a snake will get in, maybe a python. Something terrible could have happened to them. And you walk away with that in your mind, and it's so tormenting. You feel sad that you were not able to do something substantial in that situation. That is what has been bothering me, that I'm not able to help like I should do. And it makes me reach out and to ask for support, which is again demeaning. It is not a nice thing asking for money from people. It is sometimes not very good. It's really humbling. And you're misunderstood, and that's what has been happening to me. I'm misunderstood by the people whose hearts don't have love. And so that is what has gone on. And it has been interesting seeing what I've seen. Very interesting, very perplexing. But it's a joy that I'm out there and rising up to do the little I've been able to do. So, dear friends, it's an honor that you have stood by me. And as we look through the lenses of my camera, as we look at the description of my world, and as you identify with that, I believe that you get better somewhere. I believe there is a ministration that is only divine as we walk together through this journey. So we're going out again, we're going to Vihiga County, and just go with us as we unravel some of the controversies surrounding the essence and the nature of Africa. Thank you so much for sticking by. Thank you for learning with us. Thank you for emphasizing and being part of this. I truly know that there is something in your heart that knits us together. And that is not worldly. It must be godly. It has built that to even bigger edifice.